The rain fell soft and quiet on the dome of the nursery building. Inside, the air was warm and smelled like medicine and clean blankets. Yuna walked slowly down the long hallway. Her feet felt very heavy. Her eyes wanted to close. But she kept walking. 3 days. She had worked for 3 days without sleep. The sickness had come fast to the Velen homeworld. It started with 1 cub, then 2, then 10, then 50. The small creatures with their soft fur and big dark eyes had filled every bed in the nursery. Their parents stood outside the building, watching through the windows. The Velens did not know how to help their children. They did not have doctors like humans did. But Yuna was here. She was a medic from Earth. She had come to this planet 6 months ago as part of the human exchange program. Her job was simple: help where she could. Learn about the Velens. Show them that humans were friends. She never thought it would be this hard. Yuna stopped at a door and looked inside. A small cub named Bora lay on a white bed. Bora was only 3 years old in Velan time. Her fur was gray and white, and her ears were round like a bear's ears. She had been one of the first to get sick. Now, she was getting better. Yuna smiled a little. She walked into the room and checked the machine next to Bora's bed. The numbers were good. The fever was going down. Bora opened her eyes. They were big and golden, like 2 small suns. "Yuna," Bora said in a weak voice. "You came back." "I always come back," Yuna said. She touched Bora's small paw. "How do you feel?" "Tired," Bora said. "But not hot anymore." "That is good. Very good." Yuna pulled the blanket up to Bora's chin. Bora closed her eyes. Her breathing became slow and peaceful. Yuna watched her for a moment. Then she turned and walked out of the room. The hallway seemed longer now. The lights seemed too bright. Yuna put her hand on the wall to keep herself steady. She had to keep going. There were more cubs to check, more medicine to give, more worried parents to talk to. She passed another room. Inside, a cub named Duri was sitting up in bed. He was 5 years old and very brave. When Yuna had given him a shot 2 days ago, he did not cry. He just looked at her with his big eyes and said, "Will this help me get strong again?" Yuna had said yes. And she had been right. Duri was almost well now. "Yuna," Duri called out when he saw her. "Look, I can move my tail again." Yuna stopped at the door. She smiled, even though her whole body hurt from being so tired. "That is wonderful, Duri. You are very strong." "My mother said humans are magic," Duri said. "She said you have special powers that make sick people better." Yuna laughed a little. "It is not magic. It is medicine. And hard work." "I think it is magic," Duri said. He waved his tail back and forth. "Thank you, Yuna." "You are welcome," Yuna said. "Rest now." She continued down the hallway. Her vision was starting to blur. She blinked hard and tried to focus. Just a few more rooms. Just a few more cubs. Then she could rest. The Velan adults watched her from a distance. They stood in groups of 2 or 3, talking in low voices. Yuna knew they were talking about her. The Velans were not used to seeing someone work so hard for others. In their culture, each family took care of their own. They did not understand why a stranger from another planet would give so much for children that were not hers. An older Velan named Hana stepped forward. She was the head of the nursery. Her fur was dark brown, and her eyes were kind but worried. "Human Yuna," Hana said, "you must stop. You must rest." Yuna shook her head. "I will rest when all the cubs are stable." "But you have not slept in 3 days," Hana said. "This is not normal. This is not safe." "I am fine," Yuna said. But even as she spoke, her legs felt weak. The world tilted a little to the left. Hana reached out a paw but did not touch her. Velens did not touch others easily. It was not their way. "Please," Hana said. "We are grateful for your help. But we do not want you to hurt yourself. Into now, we can new one." Yuna took a deep breath. "Just a few more rooms. Then I promise I will sleep." Creator. She walked past Hana and continued down the hallway. The nursery had 20 rooms. She had checked 15. Only 5 more to go. Room 16 had a cub named Jiwoo. He was 4 years old and very small. His sickness had been the worst. For 2 days, Yuna thought he might not survive, but she had stayed by his bed for hours, giving him medicine and watching his breathing. Now he was stable. Yuna looked at Jiwoo's sleeping face. His fur was soft and white. His tiny paws were curled up near his chin. He looked peaceful. "You are going to be okay," Yuna whispered. "I promise." She checked the last 4 rooms. All the cubs were doing better. The medicine was working. The sickness was going away. Yuna felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had done it. She had helped them all, but the relief only lasted a moment. Suddenly, everything went dark around the edges. Her legs stopped working. She reached for the wall, but her hand missed. The door to the nursery's main hall was right in front of her. She could see the soft light coming through. She could hear the voices of the adult Velans inside. She tried to take one more step, but her body would not listen. Yuna fell forward. Her knees hit the floor first, then her hands, then her whole body collapsed at the doorway of the main hall. The last thing she heard before everything went black was the sound of small voices crying out her name. Inside the main hall, 40 cubs turned to look at the door. They saw the human who had taken care of them. They saw her lying on the ground, not moving. They saw the adults standing frozen, not knowing what to do. And in that moment, something changed in the hearts of the smallest Velans. Something that had never happened before in all their history. The cubs looked at each other, and without a single word, they knew what they had to do. The main hall fell silent. Every adult Velan stopped moving. They stared at the doorway where Yuna lay on the cold floor. Her eyes were closed. Her face was pale. Her chest moved up and down, very slowly. Hana was the first to speak. Her voice was shaking. "What do we do? What is happening to her?" Another adult named Kibo stepped forward. He was tall and his fur was dark gray. "We must wait for the elders. They will know what to do." "But the elders are not here," Hana said. "Elder Teho went to the capital this morning. He will not return for hours." "Then we wait," Kibo said. "That is our way." The other adults nodded. This was how Velans had always done things. When something strange happened, they waited. They talked. They asked the elders for advice. They did not rush into action. Rushing led to mistakes. Mistakes led to problems. This is what their parents had taught them. This is what their grandparents had taught their parents. So they stood there, watching, waiting, while Yuna lay on the floor, not moving. But in the corner of the main hall, the cubs were not waiting. Bora had left her bed. She was still weak from her sickness, but she had heard Yuna fall. She had walked slowly to the main hall, holding the wall for support. Now she stood behind a group of adults, looking at Yuna through the gaps between their legs. "She is hurt," Bora whispered. "Yuna is hurt." Beside her, Duri had also come. His tail was still weak, but his legs were strong. He looked at the adults standing around doing nothing. His small face became serious. "Why are they not helping?" Duri asked. "They are waiting for the elders," Bora said. "But Yuna never waited," Duri said. "When I was sick, she came right away. She did not wait for anyone." More cubs gathered behind them. Jiwoo, who had been the sickest of all, walked slowly on shaky legs. 2 other cubs named Minho and Sarah followed him. Then more came. And more. Soon, almost 40 cubs stood in the back of the main hall, watching the adults watch Yuna. Sarah was the youngest. She was only 2 years old. Her fur was pure white, and her eyes were bigger than any other cub's eyes. She had been very scared when she got sick. She had cried every night, but Yuna had held her paw and sung soft songs until Sarah fell asleep. Now Sarah looked at Yuna lying on the floor, and her little heart felt like it was breaking. "Yuna," Sarah said in her tiny voice. "Wake up, Yuna." But Yuna did not wake up. Duri turned to the other cubs. "We have to help her." "How?" Minho asked. He was 6 years old and liked to ask questions. We are just cubs. We do not know how to help humans. Yuna showed me the machines, Duri said. The ones that tell you if someone is sick. She said the machine can look inside your body and find the problem. The medical scanner, Bora said. She remembered seeing Yuna use it many times. It was a big machine, with a flat part that you put on someone's chest. It made soft sounds, and showed pictures on a screen. Yes, Duri said. We need to get the scanner. We need to use it on Yuna. The cubs looked at each other. This was a big idea. A scary idea. Cubs were not supposed to touch the medical equipment. Cubs were supposed to listen to adults and stay quiet, but the adults were not doing anything. They were just standing there, talking in low voices, waiting for elders who were not coming. Bora took a deep breath. She thought about all the times Yuna had helped her. She thought about the warm hands that touched her forehead when she had a fever. She thought about the gentle voice that told her everything would be okay. I will help, Bora said. Me too, said Duri. Me too, said Jiwoo, even though he could barely stand. Me too, said Sira in her tiny voice. One by one, all the cubs agreed. They would help Yuna. They would not wait. Duri led the way. He knew where the medical room was. It was at the end of the long hallway, past all the beds and windows. He had watched Yuna go there many times to get medicine and equipment. The cubs moved quietly. They walked past the adults who did not notice them. They slipped through the doorway and into the hallway. The medical room was far away. For adult Velans, it was a short walk. But for small cubs with short legs and weak bodies, it felt like a journey to another world. They walked slowly. Some of them held each other's paws for support. Jiwoo had to stop twice to rest. Sira sat down once and said she was too tired to continue. But Bora picked her up and carried her on her back. We have to keep going, Bora said. For Yuna. Finally, they reached the medical room. The door was big and heavy. Duri pushed it with all his strength, but it did not move. Help me, he said. 4 cubs lined up beside him. Together, they pushed. The door slowly opened. Inside the room, there were many machines and tools. There were bottles of medicine on shelves. There were screens showing numbers and pictures. And in the corner, there was the medical scanner. It was bigger than the cubs remembered. It had a long handle and a flat round part at the end. It was connected to a screen by a thick wire. The whole thing looked very heavy. How will we move it? Minho asked. Duri walked over to the scanner. He put his small paws on the handle and pulled. The scanner did not move. It is too heavy, he said. Bora set Sira down and walked to the scanner. She put her paws next to Duri's paws. Together, she said. They pulled. The scanner moved a little bit. More cubs came forward. Jiwoo grabbed the wire. Minho and Sira pushed from behind. Other cubs found places to hold on. Slowly, very slowly, the medical scanner began to move across the floor. It made a loud scraping sound. The wheels on the bottom were old and rusty. But the cubs did not stop. They pulled and pushed. They grunted and groaned. Their small bodies worked harder than they had ever worked before. The hallway seemed even longer now. Every step was difficult. Every meter felt like a kilometer. But the cubs kept going. Bora's arms hurt. Duri's legs were shaking. Jiwoo had to stop and catch his breath. But whenever one cub got tired, another cub took their place. We are almost there, Sira said. She was too small to help much. But she walked beside the scanner, cheering the others on. Yuna is waiting. We have to hurry. The adults in the main hall heard the strange sound. They turned to look at the hallway. What they saw made them freeze in shock. A group of tiny cubs was dragging a medical scanner across the floor. Their small paws were gripping the metal. Their faces were red with effort. Their eyes were full of determination. Hana could not believe what she was seeing. What are they doing? Kibo shook his head slowly. They are helping the human. But that is not possible. Another adult said. Cubs do not act on their own. Cubs wait for guidance. But these cubs were not waiting. These cubs were acting. And they were almost at the doorway where Yuna lay. Duri reached the main hall first. He pulled the scanner right up to Yuna's body. Then he looked at the screen and tried to remember what Yuna had shown him. "We put this part on her chest," he said, picking up the flat, round scanner head. "Then we press this button." His paw was shaking. He had never done this before. But he had watched Yuna do it many times. He could still hear her voice in his head. Explaining how the machine worked, Duri placed the scanner on Yuna's chest. He pressed the button. The machine made a soft humming sound. Lights began to blink. Numbers appeared on the screen. The cubs crowded around, looking at the information. They did not understand all of it. But they knew they had done something important. They had taken the first step to save the human who had saved them all. The screen glowed bright blue in the dim hallway. Numbers and symbols moved across it like tiny fish swimming in water. The cubs stared at the screen, their big eyes trying to understand what they were seeing. Duri kept his paw on the scanner. He did not want to move it. He was afraid that if he moved it, the machine would stop working. "What does it say?" Bora asked. She was standing next to him, her breath coming fast from all the effort of pulling the scanner. "I do not know," Duri admitted. "Yuna tried to teach me, but I did not understand everything." Jiwoo stepped closer to the screen. He was the quietest of all the cubs, but he liked to watch things carefully. He had spent many hours watching Yuna work while he was sick in bed. "That number," Jiwoo said, pointing at the screen with a shaky paw. Yuna always looked at that number first. She called it the heart number. The cubs looked at where Jiwoo was pointing. There was a number that kept changing. 52, 51, 50, 49. "Is that good or bad?" Minho asked. "I think it should be higher," Jiwoo said. When Yuna checked my heart number, she smiled when it went up. She looked worried when it went down. The number on the screen dropped again. 48, 47. Sarah started to cry. Her small body shook with sobs. "Yuna is getting worse. We have to do something." The adult villains were still standing frozen around them. They watched the cubs with wide eyes. No one moved. No one spoke. They did not know what to do. They had never seen anything like this before. Hana finally found her voice. "Cubs, please step away from the machine. You do not know how to use it. You might hurt the human more." Duri looked up at Hana. His young face was serious. "If we step away, Yuna will die. The number is going down." "You do not know that," Hana said. "You are just children. You cannot understand." "I understand that Yuna helped me when no one else could," Duri said. His voice was stronger now. "I understand that she did not sleep for 3 days because she wanted to save us. I understand that she is lying on the floor, and you are doing nothing." Hana stepped back like she had been hit. No cub had ever spoken to an adult like that. It was against everything they knew. But Duri was not finished. "Yuna said something to me when I was very sick. She said that sometimes the right thing to do is scary. She said that being brave does not mean you are not afraid. It means you do something even when you are afraid." He looked at the other cubs. They were all afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were still here. They were still trying. "We are afraid," Duri said. "But we are going to help Yuna anyway." Bora nodded. She knelt down next to Yuna's head. Very gently, she touched Yuna's hair. It was soft and dark, so different from Valen fur. "Yuna," Bora whispered. "Can you hear me? Please wake up. We need you to wake up." Yuna did not move. Her eyes stayed closed. But her chest was still moving up and down. She was still alive. Jiwoo looked at the screen again. He tried to remember everything Yuna had taught him. She had explained so many things during his long nights in the sick bed. She had talked about medicine and machines and how the body works. Most of it was too hard for him to understand, but some things he remembered. "Water," Jiwoo said suddenly. Yuna said, "Humans need water." She said when humans work too hard and do not drink water, their body stops working right. We need to give her water? Sira asked. She had stopped crying now. She wanted to help. I think so, Jiwoo said. And maybe we need to make her body rest. Really rest. Not just lying on the floor, but on something soft. Minho ran to one of the cub beds and pulled off a blanket. He dragged it back to the group and put it over Yuna's body. It was a small blanket, made for a Valon cub, but it covered most of her. Sira ran to get a pillow. She could barely carry it because it was almost as big as she was, but she held it tight and brought it back. Bora helped lift Yuna's head, and Sira slid the pillow underneath. Now water, Duri said. He looked around. There was a water container on a table near the wall, but it was high up. Too high for cubs to reach. For a moment, no one moved. Then Minho walked to the table. He looked at it. He looked at the water container. Then he started to climb. The adult Velans gasped. Cubs were not allowed to climb furniture. It was dangerous. It was against the rules, but Minho kept climbing. His small claws gripped the wood. His legs pushed him up. He was scared. The table was very tall. But he thought about Yuna. He thought about how she had held his paw when he was crying in pain. He kept climbing. He reached the top. The water container was right in front of him. He grabbed it with both paws and carefully started to climb back down. Halfway down, his foot slipped. He fell, but Kibo was there. The big adult Velen moved without thinking. His arms caught Minho before he hit the ground. For a moment, they looked at each other. Adult and cub. The moment felt strange and new. Thank you, Minho said. Kibo put him down gently. He looked at the water container in Minho's paws. Then he looked at Yuna on the floor. Something changed in his eyes. You will need a cup, Kibo said quietly. He walked to a shelf and took down a small cup. He handed it to Minho. Minho poured water into the cup. Then he walked to Yuna. But now there was a problem. Yuna was not awake. She could not drink by herself. How do we give her the water? Bora asked. No one knew. They stood around Yuna, feeling helpless. They had come so far. They had done so much. But they did not know how to do this one simple thing. Then Sira did something surprising. The smallest cub knelt down by Yuna's head. She dipped her tiny paw into the cup of water. Then she let the water drip from her paw onto Yuna's lips, drop by drop. Slowly and gently. Just like Yuna had done for her when she was too sick to drink. The other cubs watched. Then they understood. Bora dipped her paw in the water. Then Duri. Then Jiwoo. One by one, they took turns letting water drip onto Yuna's lips. Some of the water ran down her chin, but some of it went into her mouth. They could see her throat move as she swallowed. The number on the screen stopped going down. It stayed at 45 for a long moment. Then it started to go up. 46. 47. 48. It is working, Jiwoo said. His voice was full of wonder. The water is helping. The cubs kept going. Drop by drop. Paw by paw. They worked together like a team. Like a family. And slowly, very slowly, color started to come back to Yuna's pale face. The adult Velans watched in silence. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They were seeing something they had never seen before. Something they had never thought possible. Their children were saving a life. Their children were being brave. Their children were changing everything the Velans believed about themselves. And somewhere in the distance, a transport ship was landing. Elder Tejo was coming home. And he was about to see something that would change the future of his entire species. Elder Tejo walked through the rain toward the nursery building. His old bones were tired from the long journey to the capital. His mind was full of the meetings he had attended. The Velan Council had talked for hours about the human exchange program. Some council members wanted to end it. They said humans were too strange, too different, too dangerous. Tejo had defended the program. He had said that the human named Yuna was helping their sick cubs. He had said that humans could be trusted, but now, walking back to the nursery. He wondered if he had been right. He pushed open the main door and stepped inside. Water dripped from his fur onto the floor. He shook himself dry and looked around. What he saw made him stop breathing. A group of cubs was gathered around a human lying on the floor. They had a medical scanner pressed to her chest. They were dripping water onto her lips with their tiny paws. And the adult Vallons were standing around watching, their faces full of shock and tears. "What is happening here?" Tejo's voice was loud and sharp. Everyone turned to look at him. The cubs did not move away from Yuna. They stayed where they were, protecting her. Hana stepped forward. Her voice was shaking. "Elder Tejo." The human collapsed. She worked for 3 days without rest. She fell at the doorway. "We did not know what to do. We were waiting for guidance. But the cubs," she could not finish. She just pointed at the small group around Yuna. Tejo walked slowly toward them. His eyes moved from the medical scanner to the water cup, to the blanket and pillow. He looked at each cub's face. He saw determination. He saw courage. He saw something he had never seen in young Valens before. "You did all of this?" Tejo asked. His voice was softer now. Duri stood up straight. He was small compared to the elder. But he did not look away. "Yes, Elder Tejo." Yuna was hurt. The adults were waiting. But Yuna never waited when we were hurt. So, we did not wait either. Tejo felt something move in his heart. It was a feeling he did not have a name for. He had lived for 70 years. He had seen many things. But he had never seen cubs act without permission. He had never seen young ones make decisions on their own. The Velen way was to wait. To ask. To follow the guidance of elders. This was how they had survived for thousands of years. This was their tradition. Their law. Their nature. But looking at these cubs, Tejo began to wonder if their way was wrong. "Tell me everything," he said. He sat down on the floor, his old legs folding under him. "Tell me what happened from the beginning." Bora told the story. She told Tejo about hearing Yuna fall. She told him about the adults freezing and waiting. She told him about the cubs deciding to help. She told him about dragging the medical scanner down the long hallway. She told him about the water and the blanket and the pillow. When she finished, Tejo was quiet for a long time. The other adults watched him nervously. They did not know if they were in trouble. They did not know if the cubs were in trouble. They waited for the elder to speak. Finally, Tejo looked at the screen connected to the medical scanner. The heart number was now at 58 and still rising. Yuna's face had color again. Her breathing was stronger. "You saved her," Tejo said quietly. "You cubs saved the human's life. We just did what she would have done for us," Duri said. Tejo nodded slowly. He understood now. He understood something important. Something that changed everything he believed. For thousands of years, the Velens had taught their children to wait, to be careful, to not act without permission. They believed this made them wise. They believed this kept them safe, but it also made them slow. It made them afraid. When something bad happened, they stood frozen. They waited for others to tell them what to do. And sometimes, while they waited, people got hurt. The human Yuna was different. She did not wait. When she saw someone in pain, she helped them. When she saw a problem, she tried to fix it. She acted first and asked questions later. And now, the cubs had learned this from her. They had watched her for months. They had seen how she cared for them without waiting. They had learned that sometimes, action was more important than permission. "This is why the council fears humans," Tejo said softly. "They are afraid of this. This ability to act without waiting. This courage that does not ask for approval." "Is it bad?" Sira asked in her tiny voice. She was still kneeling by Yuna's head, her small paw resting on Yuna's hair. Tejo looked at the smallest cub. His old eyes were wet with tears. "No, little one. It is not bad. I think it might be the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." He stood up slowly. His body was tired, but his mind was alive with new thoughts. He turned to the adult Velans. "We have been wrong," he said. "Not about everything, but about this. We taught our children to wait when they should have taught them to act. We taught them to be safe when we should have taught them to be brave. We forgot that sometimes, the right thing to do cannot wait for permission." Hana looked at the ground. "We did not know what to do. We were afraid of making a mistake." "I know," Teho said gently. "I have been afraid too. We have all been afraid. But look at what our children did. They were afraid, but they acted anyway. They did not let fear stop them." Kibo stepped forward. The cub Minho fell while climbing for water. "I caught him without thinking. I acted before I thought about it." Teho smiled. "That is how it starts. One moment of action, one moment of courage, then another, and another, until it becomes natural, until waiting seems strange, and helping seems obvious." He looked back at the cubs. They were still gathered around Yuna, still watching over her. They looked tired, some of them could barely stand. But none of them were leaving. "You have taught us something today," Teho said to them. "Something we forgot long ago. Something the humans never forgot. The ability to care so much that you cannot stay still. The courage to act, even when you are afraid." He knelt down beside Yuna. Very carefully, he touched her hand. Her skin was warm. Her fingers twitched slightly. "Thank you," Teho whispered to her. "Thank you for teaching our children. Thank you for showing them what we could not." On the floor, Yuna's eyes moved behind her closed lids. Her lips parted slightly. A soft sound came from her throat. The cubs leaned closer. Their hearts were beating fast. They had done everything they could. Now, they waited. But this time, the waiting felt different. This time, they waited because there was nothing more to do. Not because they were afraid to act. And in the quiet of the nursery, with rain still falling soft on the dome above, Yuna began to wake up. Yuna opened her eyes slowly. Everything was blurry at first. She could see shapes and colors, but nothing was clear. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy like it was made of stone. Where was she? What had happened? Then she remembered. The hallway. The last room. Walking toward the door. And then, nothing. Her vision began to clear. She saw a ceiling above her. She saw lights. She saw faces looking down at her. Small faces with big eyes and soft fur. "Yuna," Sira's tiny voice was the first thing she heard clearly. "Yuna is awake." Suddenly, there were paws everywhere. Small paws touching her hands, her arms, her face. The cubs were crowding around her, their eyes full of tears and joy. "You scared us," Bora said. Her voice was shaking. "You fell down and you would not wake up. We thought you were going to die," Duri said. He was trying to be brave, but his lip was trembling. Yuna tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Someone held a cup to her lips. She drank. The water was cool and sweet. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. She drank more. Then she tried to speak again. What happened?" The cubs all started talking at once. Their voices mixed together in a happy, excited mess. Yuna could not understand any of it, but she saw their faces, and she understood that something important had happened while she was asleep. An old Velan knelt down beside her. Yuna recognized him, Elder Teho, the leader of this community. He had always been kind to her, but also distant, reserved, the way all adult Velans were. But now he looked different. His eyes were soft. His voice was gentle. "Human Yuna," Teho said. "Do you know what your cubs did for you? My cubs?" Yuna did not understand. Teho smiled. It was the first time Yuna had ever seen an elder smile. "Yes. Your cubs. They saved your life." He told her everything. He told her about the cubs dragging the medical scanner down the hallway. He told her about them using the machine even though they did not fully understand it. He told her about Minho climbing for water and falling. He told her about Sira dripping water onto her lips, drop by drop, just like Yuna had done for her. As Yuna listened, tears began to fall from her eyes. They rolled down her cheeks and dropped onto the pillow beneath her head. "I did not teach them to do this," she said. "You did," Tejo said. "You taught them every day, not with words, with actions. They watched you care for them without hesitation. They watched you help them without being asked. They watched you give everything you had for children who were not your own. And they learned." Yuna looked at the cubs gathered around her. Bora, Duri, Jiwoo, Minho, Sira, and all the others. They were watching her with so much love in their eyes that her heart felt like it might break. "You silly cubs," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You were supposed to be resting. You were supposed to be getting better." "We are better," Sira said simply. "You made us better. Now we wanted to make you better too." Yuna reached out her arms. The cubs rushed into them. She held as many as she could, feeling their warm bodies and soft fur against her. They were so small, so young. But they had done something that no Velen had ever done before. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for saving us first," Duri said. Tejo stood up. He turned to face the adult Velens who were still standing around, watching everything. "Look at this," he said. "Look at what has happened in this room. A human came to our world. She helped our children. She asked for nothing in return. She worked until her body gave up, and when she fell, our children rose up to save her." He paused. His voice grew stronger. "For thousands of years, we have taught our children to wait, to follow rules, to ask permission before acting. We thought this made us civilized. We thought this made us safe. But I see now that it also made us weak. It made us slow. It made us unable to help others when they needed us most." Hana stepped forward. "Elder Tejo, what are you saying?" "I am saying that the humans have given us a gift," Tejo said. "Not medicine. Not technology. Something far more valuable. They have given us an example. They have shown us that caring for others is more important than following rules. They have shown us that courage is more important than caution." He looked at the cubs still huddled around Yuna. "And our children understood this gift before we did. They are already better than us. They are already braver than us, because of one human who loved them without being asked." Yuna slowly sat up. The cubs helped her, their small paws supporting her back. She looked at Elder Tejo. "I just did my job," she said. "I am a medic. Helping people is what I do." Tejo shook his head. "No. Human Yuna, what you did was more than a job. A job has limits. A job has hours. A job does not require you to work until you collapse. What you did was something else, something humans have a word for that we do not have in our language." "What word?" Yuna asked. "Love," Tejo said. "You loved our children. Not because you had to. Not because someone told you to. You loved them simply because they needed love. And that changed everything." Yuna felt more tears falling. She had never thought of it that way. She had just seen sick children who needed help. She had just done what felt right. But maybe that was exactly what Tejo was talking about. Maybe doing what felt right, without waiting, without asking permission, without calculating the cost, was what love looked like. The rain had stopped outside. Through the windows of the nursery, Yuna could see the sky clearing. 2 moons were rising over the horizon. The night was beautiful. She looked at the cubs around her. Bora was leaning against her shoulder. Duri was holding her hand. Sarah had climbed into her lap and was already falling asleep. Jiwoo was sitting nearby, watching her with his quiet, thoughtful eyes. Minho was showing off a bandage on his arm from when he fell, proud of his wound like it was a medal. These were not her children by blood. They were not even the same species. But in that moment, they were hers, and she was theirs. I think, Yuna said softly, I would like to stay on this planet for a while longer. If that is okay. Tejo smiled again. Human Yuna, you may stay as long as you wish. You are family now. The word hit Yuna like a wave. Family. On a planet millions of miles from Earth. Among a species that was so different from humans. She had found family, and she had found something else too. She had found proof that kindness could cross any distance, that love could teach any heart. That even the most set in their ways, people could learn new things if someone showed them how. The cubs had learned courage from her, but she had learned something from them too. She had learned that nothing she gave was ever wasted. Every moment of care, every act of kindness, every sacrifice she made, was planted in the hearts of those who watched. And someday, when she needed it most, those seeds would bloom, just like they had bloomed today, in a hallway where 40 small cubs decided that waiting was not enough. That helping was more important than rules. That love was worth being brave for. Yuna held the cubs close. Outside, the moons rose higher. And in the nursery on the Velen homeworld, a new chapter in history was beginning. A chapter about a human who fainted at the door, and the cubs who dragged the medical scanner themselves to save her.